Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be learning how to make the peony calyx. This is how the completed peony looks like from the front, and this is how it looks like from the back. The peony calyx simply refers to these green parts at the back of the peony. They do definitely complete the look of the peony. So they are made up of 3 broader leaves and 3 slimmer leaves as shown here. These are how they look like before we assemble them onto the peony. So now I'm going to teach you how to make them, and we're going to assemble them together on our peony. First, let's start off with the colours. Here I have 3 colours that I'll be using for my peony calyx. They are juniper green from Wilton, gooseberry from Sugar Flare, a warmer green, and claret from Sugar Flare, a red tone. First, I'm going to start off with gooseberry, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the gel paste and put it on my colour palette. Here we go. And then next, I will be taking a little bit of claret because I'm going to tone down my green as I do not want such a bright green. So claret from Sugar Flare is my choice. Similarly, take a toothpick and then put it into a next well. So I want the colours to be well separated. Next, I'll be using vodka to dilute my gel paste into paintable consistency. If you're wondering why I'm using vodka, I have actually gone through that in another video where I spoke about the basics of wafer paper. You can find it in the link above. So just a few drops will do. And then I'm going to grab my paintbrush and take a little bit of the green gel paste and mix it well with my vodka. You want to make sure that you push your brush all the way in and around the well to make sure that they are well mixed. So tap away the excess, and then now I'm going to swatch this green onto a paper towel to make sure that we are getting the green that we want. So this is how it looks like with just gooseberry and this amount of vodka. Okay, so this green seems a little bit too bright for my liking, so I'm going to add a little bit of red to tone my green down. Red and green are complementary colours, so they tend to neutralize each other. So this definitely looks like the green that I'm going for, so I'm going to stick with this. Then now I'm going to move on to my claret because there are 2 colours in the calyx that I'm working with. So similarly, starting off with claret, I'm going to push my brush in and all the way around the well to make sure it's well mixed, and then I'm going to swatch it. So this red is definitely too bright. We're definitely going for something more muted, so a little bit more green to tone the red down, to decrease the saturation of my red. Oops, I think I've gone a little bit too far here, so I'm going to bring back a little bit more of my red tones and then mix it into my well. And swatch it, and there we go. So I think this is the red I'm looking for. So this is also the fun part about colour mixing. You never really get it in the first try, so just always have fun and play around until you get the colour that you want. So now we're ready to paint our calyx. We're going to start off with our red brush, and just using very light feathery strokes, we're going to paint it from the top down. As you can see, I'm using a flicking action so that the colour tapers off as it enters the calyx. Here I'm trying to draw lines and not really just colouring the calyx. This is to create extra texture for our calyx since we won't be using a veiner for our calyx. So I'm going to do it for both sides, top down and in a flicking action. And then with our green colour, we're going to paint it across the entire calyx. This time we're not drawing lines anymore, just purely colouring the calyx. I'm going to flip it over and do the same to the back. Make sure that the entire calyx is well covered in green. Now we're going to pick up our calyx, and then we're going to move it over to our foam pad to create extra indentations. Using the back of the Dresden Tool, I'm just going to press it into my calyx as shown here to create all these extra textures. So now the calyx is not flat anymore. You can see that it's a little bit cupped at the top, and you can see some lines popping out. Using the calyx on my palm, I'm going to grab my ball tool, and then I'm going to coat my ball tool with shortening so that it glides on my wafer paper a lot easier. So place the bottle in the middle and start drawing circles. Slowly increase the size of the circle until it starts to cup the entire calyx, like that. You want to slowly test out the pressure of the ball tool that you're adding onto your calyx and gradually increase from there. You do not want to suddenly shock your calyx with a very strong pressure that you're adding on it. And then I'm going to use the end of my Dresden tool to bring back some of the indentations that might have been lost. And the last step is to kind of do a little fold backwards. This is to allow for easier attachment onto our peony later on. So this is how the broader part of the calyx looks like. We're going to repeat the same steps for the other two and then move on to the slimmer part of the calyx. We'll be using juniper green for this, a slightly cooler tone green. Put the gel paste in the new well and then start mixing from there. So grabbing a new paintbrush, I'm going to mix the gel paste into the vodka. Similarly, make sure that it's well mixed. So in order to create a more gradual flow from one green to another, I'm going to add in my previous green into this current green that I'm working on. And I'm going to keep adding until I find that the colors are more similar and they do not look suddenly too different. So now I'm going to test out my color. Okay, so this green looks pretty much it. I quite like it. So I'm going to go ahead and work with this green. Using my smaller calyx, this time we only have one color. So we're going to use the green and then paint it across the entire calyx. So I'm going to do for both front and the back. And then similarly, I'm going to use my needle tool to pick it up and put it on my foam pad to create some indentations. So using my Dresden tool, I'm going to coat with a little bit of shortening so that it glides better off my wafer paper. And I'm going to start from the tip, moving it downwards onto the center of the calyx. Slowly increase the pressure as you go, and I'm going to add more pressure on the top so that it curls more. So that's basically it. This is how it looks like. So this is how all the calyx parts look like before they are assembled onto our peony. The broader ones on top, all of them having a different shape, and then the bottom ones curl slightly differently as well. Nothing is equal in nature. Flip it around, this is where we're going to stick our peony calyx. So holding it in place, this is where I'll place my first part of the calyx. So we're going to start off with the broader ones. This one goes here, and then the second, and then the third one goes here. There is no exact point you have to start, you just have to make sure that they are roughly equidistant apart. So grabbing a paintbrush, we're going to dip into our wafer paper glue, and then we're going to stick it to the bottom part of the peony. If you can't use your fingers to secure it, you can always do it like me, using the bottom part of the Dresden tool and then just press it down for a few seconds. This should ensure that it's well stuck on. So there you go, this is how the first part looks like. And then the other two goes here. So repeating the same steps. If you want to learn how to make our wafer paper glue, you can always click on the link above and it will lead you to the video where I show you how I make my wafer paper glue. I use my wafer paper glue to attach all the petals of my wafer paper flowers. So now we are done with the broader part of the calyx. We are ready to move on to the slimmer ones. So the slimmer ones goes in between the broader part of the calyx, this way. So this is why we leave a space in between the broader parts of the calyx so that the slimmer ones can come in between them. So wafer paper glue, While the broader parts of the calyx curl upwards, the slimmer parts of the calyx curl downwards. So this is one down, and then we're going to repeat for the other two on these two empty parts. And with that, we are done with our Wafer Paper Peony calyx. If you'd like to learn how to make this gorgeous looking peony, you can find this class on our online school, and you'll get to learn my signature techniques and get my exclusive notes on how to create a fluffy and natural looking peony. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and a subscribe. If you've tried making this, do share your work with us on Instagram at Winifred Kristé Cake so I can see it as well. Meanwhile, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.